The Final Frontier. These are the voyages of the starship Globetrot. Our 5-year mission to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new shows and new video games, to boldly go where no woman with a fro has gone before. Welcome to another episode of Over 40 and Unapologetically Nerdy. I'm your host, Felicia Baxter. There's so much going on in alternate universe and the real verse, so let's get to it. This week I'll be talking to you about great space nerd news. Star Trek social media has been on fire, as well as the general recap of Star Trek Discovery. And I hope you enjoy this episode. Thanks.
Fly me to the moon.
Space! So what's going on in space news, y'all? Well, I have been just kind of tripped out about how active everything is. This week, there has been multiple announcements. One was the announcements of the Artemis crew. We haven't had anybody to walk on space or had a core crew with a specific intent since Apollo and 72 being selected for being the next humans on the moon. That was actually released this week. However, there was also some other news, and I'll get to the details of the Artemis crew just in a minute. I'm going to figure out how to embed this video from a couple of things. First, the SpaceX's Starship launch exploded when it tried to set down. It looks like the throttle got stuck, and it was coming, like, it went up perfectly and beautifully, but when it came back to re-land on the pad, it was coming too fast and they didn't slow down enough, so then it crashed down and it exploded. That kind of sucked, but they did get the data. It did launch. The whole landing thing, they didn't stick the landing, so I found that to be amusing, but not really. It was unmanned. Nobody got hurt, but still, they got the information that they needed from the ascent, but they're going to need to stick that landing for sure. And a follow-up with that is the Chinese space agency has landed an unmanned, I think it's a robot or whatever, on the moon to collect samples of moon samples of rocks and soil, etc. They did that successfully. Also, probably either the same day or the day after, we had that big explosion. So one up, one down. Well, you know how that goes. And a little bit more about this highly diverse crew. I'm going to continue to be happy about the introduction of the space race back into the psyche of America. I'm excited about the whole potential for us to get back on the moon. We're going to do it probably with the European Space Agency, which I think is pretty amazing. The team that they've selected are some of the most highly qualified and smart individuals on the planet. A lot of women, several people of color, an ex-Navy SEAL who looks like a ninja. He's cool. The names are, and I don't think I'm gonna have enough room to put this in the podcast itself, but I will probably just put the link to this news release. It's Joseph Akaba. He's been an astronaut since 2004. He's spent 306 days in space and performed 3 spacewalks. Kayla Barron, she was selected as 2017. She's actually is an engineer, and a submarine warfare officer. I didn't know that. She's a lieutenant commander in the U.S. Navy. There's Raja Chari. joined as a colonel from the U.S. Air Force, from Iowa, pilot, master's degree in aeronautics and astronautics. Matthew Dominic, astronaut. Oh, these people are young. 2017, Navy pilot. Victor Glover, who's up there now, he's been an astronaut since 2013. Bachelor's in he's an engineer also, and a pilot. There's Warren Hoberg, professor of MIT. Yosemite Search and Rescue is a part of this Yosemite Search and Rescue team. He's also an engineer. There's Johnny Kim from LA. Is this the Navy SEAL? Yes, this is the Navy SEAL. He's also young too, 2017. There's Christina Hammett Cook. I think this is the one she's from North Carolina. She's also the engineer, female, longest person in space, 328 days. There's Kjell Lindgren. He's been an astronaut since 2009. He's also a doctor, and he also has cardiovascular physiology. He's from Taiwan. Amazing. Kjell Lindgren. It's not a Taiwanese name, but there you go. There's Nicole Mann. She's been an astronaut since 2013. She's a pilot from a Marines. Go on, girl. Anne McLean's 2013 Navy pilot, engineer. Jessica Meir, 2013. She has a doctorate in marine biology and space studies. She sounds like me, but cool beans. Jasmine Mogbelli, 2017, U.S. Marine Navy pilot. Kate Rubins, astronaut since 2009, doctorate in cancer biology. We need you up there, girl. Spent a lot of time in space. There's Frank Rubio. He's also a doctor of medicine. And also a Black Hawk helicopter pilot, surgeon, flight surgeon. Scott Tingle, 2009, mechanical engineer. Jessica Watkins, looks like she engineer, but she's also a geologist. I think this is the black girl. Stephanie Wilson, wow, she's been the oldest one. 1996, was space shuttle flight commander. Spent 42 days in space. She's an engineer, and she also works at the Jet Propulsion Lab. This is absolutely amazing. I'll also include the live feed to this address. I think just be on deck, that you're probably going to have to. It's great that you get to basically fast forward through the Grand Dragon, Vice President Grand Dragon, little comments, and taking all the credit for nothing that they could either understand or had anything to do with the excellence of this group of highly specialized individuals. If you can get past him, this is actually going to be, I definitely guarantee that you're actually going to enjoy watching the announcement, or you can just go to the press release on NASA, which I will include in I actually will include in the what am I looking for? Sorry. I will actually include in the podcast notes. In further news from NASA, I also like to post, and I will post several images in my notes, either from NASA, the International Space Station, or even, and definitely for this week's Star Trek episode. But this week, in the previous segment, I basically spoke at length about all of the wonderful, brilliant individuals that will be that have been selected for the Artemis program. And I was looking for if there was like a class picture of these guys. The only thing that I actually saw that's been posted on NASA TV is Grand Wizard, current vice president, presenting these amazing individuals. And since I basically despise everyone that occupies the White House in this administration, I refuse to put that picture anywhere near my podcast. I don't want to jinx it. I hate all of them. So I'm waiting, and hopefully I'll post something that does not include that fool. They also is a great picture of, it looks like a burn picture, how they're using 3D printed rocket parts. And that's what exactly it is. We're probably going to see 3D printing in space. It could bring down overall manufacturing costs and reduce production time if these products prove to be just as strong and as dependable as the prefabricated ones. It would make sense. It definitely is where you can actually, the weight of the parts are of the solution that for a 3D printer is definitely lighter than actually the pre-made joint. So what if you had your own manufacturer? I've been saying this for a number of years with all of with Kodak and Philips as far as medical DME. How you can actually bring down the cost if you could just make your own shit locally. There's no transportation, there's no postage, and if it proves to be just as dependable and works just as well, why wouldn't you? Think about it. The only picture that I actually am going to post is a extended exposure picture that shows it's really kind of a lopsided Christmas tree, but it also shows the space station as it flies over Arlington. It looks like a shooting star, but in fact it truly is the International Space Station. I think that's pretty cool. I did not blow it up, but I think in itself it is just a reminder of the beauty of the season, because this tree doesn't have a star on top of it, but the way this amateur photographer actually took it, the space station is the star on top of the tree. I think that's absolutely cool. So definitely I'm going to post that in this section of the podcast. But also, last week I spoke about radishes, how they harvested the first batch of radishes in space, and I actually discovered that I really like radishes, especially if they're marinated for a few minutes in a little bit of rice vinegar, lime, salt, pepper, and hot pepper, crushed red pepper. That is the bomb. But that was part of the habitat growth. They're trying to figure out how to provide fresh fruits and vegetables to the astronauts. Along those lines is that led me to look up, because there was another news story or a news link within NASA News about rodent research, and there's also this rodent, a rodent habitat that's actually, they moved the rodents from this recent launch to the ISS from the missile, or excuse me, the rocket to the International Space Center, to these habitats. But the rodents have actually been in space for a number of years. They've been conducting long-term study of the effect of microgravity on human the bones and mineralization. And in this experiment, they're actually looking at the cardiovascular effects, which some of those are negative and they're non-reversible. We kind of knew a little bit of this from, I think it was John Glenn and his possibly botched cardiovascular surgery. The astronauts seem to have a higher incidence of cardiovascular artery disease than the general population, and it may have to do with some of the dysregulation that they actually see as far as part of microgravity's effect. It can do some good because if we know how gravity has the opposite effect, and it can push, you could be pushed to like premature disease, but it may be reversible and it may have some effects on how we actually treat cardiovascular disease here on Earth. But it also will lend itself to some what can we possibly do? Is there some things that we can give the astronauts to help prevent it? And if we can catch it early enough, how can it be reversible? So those are the types of things, the questions that they're trying to answer with this new rodent research. And it's actually a whole cool system. All medical, there's 2 medical doctors. And actually the ranks of the not just Artemis, but there's several of the astronauts are not just engineers and geologists, but there also are medical doctors that are doing this physiologic research. I was exposed to the space physiology when I was an intern back in the Space Life Sciences training program back in '92. The wealth of information that they were able to glean from that, as well as ongoing research, is alive and well. And I'm going to be posting a little bit of blurb about this recent research that they're doing, not just with the rats, but also with cardiovascular grown tissue outside of the human body, and the results of that. This is a gold mine, and it's definitely needed if we're trying to have a permanent presence on the moon and then in space or out in space. We need to know the effects, unintended, and if at all possible, how can we prevent some of the negative effects of microgravity? I think it's all very fascinating because some of the applications are applicable here. If they can figure out how to reverse some of that and develop drugs to reverse some of that technology may be actually applicable to us Earthlings, and I think that's pretty daggum good.
Commander Paul Stamets, personal log. I had this moment with Adira today. I feel like I should be talking about how they opened up to me, but what I'm thinking about instead is a staircase. When I was a kid, there was this spot at the top of the stairs where I'd sit in my pajamas holding a test score or report card, hoping my dad would come home before bedtime, because the only time he actually looked me in the eye, saw me in any way, was when I showed I was smart, like him. Usually he'd be working too late, but I'd wait as long as I could, just counting the fibers in that section of carpet. 7,461. I'm not Adira's dad, of course. Whatever I am, I want them to know I see them. Not just because they're smart, but for all the other things they are too. They deserve to feel that.
Sometimes you forget that this is just a show, but in a lot of people, it really isn't. I think another person that commented on this Instagram post, they basically put it just perfectly. So I forget this is actually a show. This log or this Instagram feed is brilliant. Star Trek Discovery post exclusively on CBS All Access on Thursdays. Every Monday, they have, quote unquote, the personal logs of the characters on the show. And this past week's was really probably one of the best ones I've actually listened to. I would prefer if they would post it earlier or instead of Monday, because if they post it like on Friday, then I could actually wait to actually publish my podcast a little bit later. But this just encourages me to I have something to look forward to on Monday. I watched the show. I looked through all of the blogs, and I'll talk about one in particular a little bit later on in the episode. But this blog or Instagram or social media post just within itself is just so brilliant. Each week it seems like it gets better and better. Like the one with the black actress, how soothing her voice was. The one with Blue, how amazing that was. And just from the perspective of a non-binary person and making sure you address them with the appropriate pronouns. But also, the Giorgio one basically started it out for me. I don't know about the Saru. I don't know. I'm just going to put it out. That one. It was all right. But I think this is just another dynamic and another layer of why this show is so popular. And when you invest in your characters and in your product, and you brand it, because this Star Trek log is absolutely brilliant. It basically reinforces issues, themes from the previous show, and what and it sounds like what they're going to be focusing on as the show goes on, because you can have your little snark and your opinions of storylines, etc., but they are utilizing social media and their platform for good, for entertainment, but you're going to learn something too. And this particular post by the actor Stamens is absolutely brilliant. I think all nerds that didn't quite feel that they fit in can relate to this imaginary, a fictional post. How many of us have felt like this, where we felt that we were not even accepted by a father or a mother or a family member? And the way they wrote it and the way he basically read it was just so poignant. And it basically suspends disbelief. This is what great actors and great acting actually does. Brilliant. Kudos to this actor. I love this particular post. And I'm going to make this a permanent part of my podcast. I just am floored at the beauty of his words and the feeling from behind it, as he basically spoke about his relationship with Adira, non-binary, and wanted to make sure that that they were seen. That's all he wanted. Great friend, knows he's not their father, that they were seen. And I wish all of us could just be seen. How amazing is that? Brilliant, and kudos to whoever thought up this blog post. I love it. Keep them coming. So next up is just my take on the Star Trek of it all, as far as another social media platform that I've started following. In addition to Star Trek logs and some of the blogs, one of the most fascinating social media feeds is ships of Star Trek. The inspiration for these ships are for the Star Trek Online, and in particular this week, they posted, and there was a whole discussion about the mirror ship number 2, ISS Hot Suzuki. I think it's apropos because in this week's Star Trek Discovery, we go back to the alternate universe where Giorgio basically losing her mind and her cellular integrity. But this particular ship, because there's a whole mirrored Discovery. This particular dangerous looking ship is the figment of somebody's imagination, and it only exists on Star Trek Online. The artist is named Salacnar. Is a 30-year-old dude. He's an amateur photographer, an amateur artist from the Netherlands, and it is. I personally like this ship. It looks pretty badass with the red accents. The Terrans, they're all about destruction and just fucking up shit just because they can. But it also led me to discover an entire community, and it's this deviant art that's basically dedicated to Star Trek Online and video game art. This is one of the warships that is actually used, or I'm sure can be used and designed for the video game. This goes back to why I need to basically get beyond the beginning stages of it. I really need to use my Xbox One because I need to progress more in Star Trek Online to be able to get access to these wonderful warships. I'm like only at stage 1. I can't figure out how to get past that. I'm gonna have to bribe my nephew or my niece to come here to get me beyond Star Trek Online so I can actually get to and use some of these wonderful ships. But at the same time, there is an entire online community at deviantart.com that basically showcases these artists' wares. You got some crunchy little trolls that they say shit like, I'm not sure about this one. The pylons are the main thing that are annoying me. Who cares? You can't draw. Just get out your feelings and give this non-brother, his props of this amazing ship that it exists in his mind. That's why he should get the credit. But there's a whole online community, not just deviant art. There's also one that I snag, not only myself, but the administrator for Star Trek ships online. He basically it's an art website. Hold up for one quick second because I'm going to have to navigate back to ships of Star Trek because I've utilized many ships and I've posted it on my website. It's just so, ooh, this is good. That's pretty too. But between Deviant Art, I'm actually going to snag this one and see what y'all think about that one because that's, what ship is that? But anyways, hold up. The one that I actually snagged from last week, the Corella, is from an alternate, oh, that's actually a Jim Hadar ship. From another well-known artist on an alternate site. Let's see if I can find that right quick. I think this is it. Lightworks is one, but that doesn't sound familiar. I basically closed out a whole bunch of windows that I actually had up, y'all, and I'm having some difficulty finding the Corella. Let's see. Ooh, there's Deep Space Nine. That's pretty too. But, and you know, if you're a super nerd, if you, ArtStation, there you go. ArtStation.com is the other website where it's a collection of amateur online um, artists that basically showcase their wares. It's like a profile, like social media platform where they basically, it's all the art from the video games. These guys are amazing because just the level of detail that's included in their art is, it just blows my mind. I wish I had that much imagination, and I wish I had that much talent to basically depict and render these wonderful designs that only exist in their minds, and we use them in the video games. I wish I was also talented enough to be able to progress in the video games so I can actually enjoy their artwork even more. But between artworks.com and deviantart.com, where there's no deviancy in it at all, you're going to get you'll be exposed to some of the most amazing art just because you are a Trek fan and you also like the video games and you're a gamer. Amazing. There's so many great and talented people out there. And if I could just do my part in just bringing it to the discerning public, you may discover the wealth of beauty that is before us. Even in these bleak times, this is actually a great outlet to be able to enjoy an alternate type of beauty. I find the technology and the renderings of these particular artists amazing. And this is what is getting me through on it. What about y'all? Just drop me a line at TNFroWasReading@gmail.com and see if you basically feel the same way as I do, because I absolutely love all of these renderings and the positivities exposed. Even with the trolly comments, there's so much positivity that they are displaying, in the beauty, especially in this niche of sci-fi fantasy doing at this time. It's keeping my mind off of things, and it's inspiring me to be just as creative, just in my little niche of country ass Tennessee. So let me know what you think about my suggestions that I think this week's particular publishing of Deviant Arts, the ISS Hatsuzuki. But there may be other ships. Just let me know if I need to basically post others. So on to the part of the show that why I created all of this, or why I was talking about all of this. Well, one of the things, initially this was supposed to be a recap of all things Stephen King, and for my cousin and I to basically recap that Black people read racist ass Stephen King, but that's a whole discussion for a whole different podcast that I'm planning on actually publishing or producing with the publication of Stephen King's The Stand, the whole reread, revamp, and recap. Basically starring myself and my cousin Viva from New York. Anyways, but this is the recap of Star Trek Discovery. The official synopsis of the show is the USS Discovery crew journey to a mysterious planet in hopes of finding a cure for Giorgio's deteriorating condition. Stamets Adira make a stunning breakthrough with the newly acquired burn data. I don't know, y'all. I was expecting more of the beat 'em up, smash 'em up, special effects, programmable matter of the previous episodes. Because my thing is, if you are going to be dramatic, at least have a storyline that kind of makes sense. This one was alright. This was basically, you knew that the Terran Giorgio was going to show out. Her best bet of if there was shit to be fucked up, she was gonna fuck it up. We went back to the Federation 2.0, having to ask permission to take her to some undescript planet, so she could save herself. But in Giorgio fashion, she wasn't with it. She was like, please just let me go out in a blaze of glory. She's Klingon in that way. And she was just chilling. She was like, look, I ain't feeling like going through all this, blah, blah, blah. But what I found amazing was just, it basically harkened back to, of course, the previous season of Star Trek Discovery. Whole Terran universe. Actually, while we jib-jiving, this alternate universe was basically brokered many years ago, like 95, 96, with Star Trek Deep Space Nine. The alternate universe, because I distinctly remember Cisco and Smiley, those characters, basically the riff on that. What I was happy with was how they presented the Giorgio character. Baller. She's an empress or she's a queen. The whole halo, a tiara that I want, I get it. Also, I like how they presented even Burnham. Burnham is pretty badass in this episode too. I wish her and Giorgio had fought more. There was an incident towards the end where Giorgio calls her out because the Lorca character and Burnham basically plot to kill Giorgio. Giorgio regrets in her time, in a later future time period, killing Burnham. The whole backstory of that, Burnham was basically plucked off a trash heap to become the adopted daughter of the Empress alternate universe Terran Giorgio. It makes sense that it would, Giorgio's destruction is basically, from what I understand, she basically is imploding because of what they found out through the time travel wars is that everyone wants to be in their time. So their whole goal is to get back to where the time that allows them to have the cellular cohesiveness. That's what is why it seems that on an atomic level that Giorgio is basically imploding. So she goes through this portal that also touches back to the original series portal, evidently. And also the Deep Space Nine concept of an alternate universe. Giorgio the Terran, who's usually bent on destruction, actually has to right the wrong of her actions because in her alternate universe, she basically caps the alternate Burnham, but she knows what happens, so she goes back to right that wrong. Is it convoluted? Yes. Could they have done, I think it would have been done better and more accepted if there was more action, yes. The Blue Del Barrio character, as well as the Wilson Cruz or the Dr. Hugh Culber's characters, their storylines are kind of mixed in this because they basically utilize the doctor character wants to help the unwilling Giorgio get better. The Adira character wants to use the algorithms to find the source of the distress signal that's actually within the burn. Utilizing the data actually allows them to pinpoint this planet that helps. It's like precision medicine at its best. That will allow the Giorgio character to actually get better, even though she's basically unwilling. Yes, it's disconcerting to see all of the alternate characters or the alternate universe characters within this scene. But I think they did um, a fairly good job of basically streamlining a very complex storyline to get to the point of leaving us with the how and the influence of this brown character Giorgio influence on her future, and how she basically realizes, because she's actually been forced to do the work. She's basically, through Section 31, the killing of Lorca, following Burnham, basically through a portal and a wormhole to this new future. She sees what her wrongs are, and she basically has to go back, not just to save herself, but to go back to right the obvious wrongs that she felt that she needs to do. I know this was like episode 8 or 9, but I'm wondering if this, I think this is, we're coming up on the series finale. And I'm thinking, because I think I may have bookmarked that, but I think we're coming up on the series finale, and we're going to see how this works. I don't know if the Giorgio character is actually supposed to come back, or it's not going to work, because that theatrical tension would not be there if she survives, because the Giorgio character basically dies in like season 1. She comes back as a Terran in season 2, but I'm wondering if Giorgio is going to be in season 3, or she's going to be on. Does she have other projects that she's going to work on? Very convoluted, very complex. I think from just a simplistic standpoint, the technology is banging, the special effects is banging. I love the uniforms. I need that sword that Giorgio almost decapitated Burnham with. And it is just odd that a species, the Calpians, that were once hunted and eaten by their every species, plays such a major role in this particular episode, and it seems like in upcoming episodes, because if they find that the Calpians are the ones that were the source of the distress signal that started within that nebula right before the burn happened. Unintended, maybe, but we're not done yet, because Philippa actually has to get healed, and they actually are closer to the reason for the burn happening. I'm thinking it's still intentional, and I honestly think that the Terrans had something to do with it, just because they love to fuck shit up. And I'm wondering when Giorgio actually writes the timeline by not killing Burnham, is that going to prevent the burn, and that is going to right all of this deleterious issues in the future? But we'll see. I'm not so sure, but we'll see. But I also do know that we are in fact running out of time, because I think we're very close to the season finale of Star Trek Discovery. So that'll do it for this episode of Over 40 and Unapologetically Nerdy. There's so much going on as far as research and space and science, and I know that I will have updates on the rat trials, as well as radishes from space, as well as everything that's going on in the Star Trek of it all. I'm looking forward to post on Star Trek Log, as well as Ships of Star Trek, And I'm thinking that next week will be the finale for the season, but then I'll be right back with my cousin Viva as we do our personal analysis on The Stand by Stephen King that's supposed to actually premiere next week. I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I've enjoyed creating it, but before I leave off, I'm going to have to kick it to you. I'm going to also include the coupons for alibris.com, where you can get a percentage off of your books when you order from that site. Don't forget to navigate to Chatterbooks, my personal online bookstore, and check out All Things Star Trek, because I do have a complete section of it as far as fan fiction. And Writer's Block Coffee, if you want to stay up late to listen to this episode with your caffeine fix, as well as read that book that you purchased on either alibris.com or bookshop/Chatterbooks. And then, as always, there's still a bunch of people that need a bag of gummy penises, and you can navigate to www.shipabagofdicks.com/TNFro and use my promo code either MaryDicks, which I think is completely hysterical, to get up to 25% off of your order as well as shipment, or use TNFro to get also a percentage off of your entire order or shipment. And if you would like to leave me a non-trolling message at TNFroisreading@gmail.com, I may actually read that message online, especially if it's non-trolling. And as I said before, if you have enjoyed this episode as much as I've enjoyed creating it, please drop me a line, but also just thank you in advance for enjoying it. And I will talk to you soon, hopefully. And until next week, bye.